is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter. The podcast for the true martial artist.
Who goes?
I love the pregnant pause. Who goes there?
I'm Tim Carpenter, owner of Hellfish Mixed Martial Arts.
Why do you struggle with the name of your own school?
It's a lot of syllables.
Yeah?
You know,
It's not monosyllabic?
it's not monosyllabic. So it's multisyllabic.
Am I introducing me or are you introducing me?
And I am here with co-host of the Ninja Rob Podcast.
You can drop
Host. Then what am I? My co-host?
No, we're just hosts. There's no... So if one was a host and the other was a co-host, that would mean the other person would be less than.
Does it?
The
I think
host.
they just mean they do it together and one is introduced first.
Right, but if you would say I'm co-host...
But it sounds weird if I'm like, I'm host with the host.
How about if I'm the host with the most?
How's your eye doing?
Man.
Wait, you didn't introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Marco Perazzo of New Jersey Martial Arts, head instructor and owner. With
Owner of 2 functional eyes now.
Yes. Yeah. Fully functioning.
Yeah?
A little weird.
Is it like you haven't seen out of that eye in how long?
I would say probably 10 years. Yeah.
And it was a pretty easily fixable?
Well, not for someone that's not a physician. You'd have to be a trained ophthalmologist
But you've had health insurance for those 10 years? Most of those 10 years, probably?
Likely, yeah.
Right?
Under some name or other.
All right. And then you went in on Monday?
Tuesday.
And you look fine.
I always look fine.
I know, but now you can see what you look like.
You look fine. So when I got the original diagnosis, I guess maybe it was like 15, 18 years ago, the ophthalmologist that I saw kind of told me that he wasn't sure about continuing doing the martial arts with any impact around the head, face, chest, or breast.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like a non-starter for me. I was like, I can't, this is what I do for a living. This is my passion. I was like,
get a second opinion.
Yeah, I never bothered. I started doing some research on the internet. There's not really a lot of good research on post-cataract surgery for combat athletes to see, like what are the outcomes. I know Margarito had cataract surgery, and BJ Penn had it as well. 2 of the greats. Well, now 3 of the greats have had cataract surgery. So when I had a scratched cornea maybe like a month ago because of jiu-jitsu, and I go to the emergency room and they look in my left eye and they go, "Do you know you have a cataract here?" I go, "Yeah, I can't see out of that eye. I'm pretty I know it's like, well, how come you haven't gotten it fixed?" And the doctor in the emergency room was like, "Well, that really shouldn't be a concern for you." He's like, "I think we can probably get some good vision out of that eye." So then I got a consult with the doctor, explained to him what my concerns were, and he said, "Your eye would be as likely to get injured before surgery as it is after."
Maybe you should have got that second opinion 15 years ago.
Maybe the technology wasn't up to par 15 years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe I could have gotten that second opinion. You're right. Yeah, just halt that right in its tracks. Yeah, so I went in, I got the surgery, and I, as I'm walking to sit down in the waiting room pre-surgery, I walked by a woman. I'm like, DC Maxwell, hello, how are you?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Original owner of Maxercise, the jiu-jitsu school.
Is she still Maxwell?
Is she still a Maxwell?
Yeah.
They called her Deborah Maxwell when they called her in.
Her name was Deborah?
Deborah.
I never knew what she was.
Yeah, her name is Deborah. So that's the least interesting part of my interaction with her.
What was
the most interesting part was how she perked up when I brought up your name.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I think most people do. I
may not agree with that.
Very few people might.
She was very interested in how you were doing and what was going on in your life.
Really?
Yes.
That's good. I'm also very interested in what's going on in her life.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I'm
not here to share that.
Okay.
But I was happy to share your.
But she's doing okay? What was she doing at the doctor's office?
Getting cataract surgery.
Really?
Yeah. We had that in Commissar the next day. So.
You saw her the next day too?
So yeah, because we had a post-surgery consult. Which she and I had this by happenstance at the same doctor. Shout out to Dr. Tipperman if he happens to be listening. Did a great job. And so I get the surgery. Surgery was probably 15 minutes long at the most. Yeah.
15 years without vision. 15 minutes later, You can see.
I could see, but the problem is going so long without vision in that left eye. The doctor had warned me because you might have double vision because the muscles and how the neurons and the receptors work. He said, don't be surprised if you have some double vision. And I came out and I'd kind of forgotten that the doctor had said that to me. So the nurse who's helping me post-op says, hey, how's everything looking? I go, hey, is it normal for me to see double right now? And he goes, no. And he rushes, he calls the doctor, and then the doctor comes and says, hey, remember we talked about, what you were, how it was supposed to be. And I was like, yeah, it's like, they got me on Valium and fentanyl right now. So,
Fentanyl?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't that impressed.
They must not have given you enough.
I don't think they gave me any.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't take drugs ever. So,
yeah, you think you would feel it.
Yeah.
But you know what? They gave me Dilaudid one time, which I had heard was the best of all the painkillers.
The Cadillac?
Yeah, the Cadillac of painkillers, of opiates. And I didn't feel it really at all. So
yes,
everybody's a little bit different.
So, and I don't know if it's maybe because like I'm super hardcore on keto right now, if that has an effect on how drugs interact with your system or whatever. But
I don't think so.
I wasn't impressed with fentanyl or the other drug.
I think my favorite drug that I've ever been given by a doctor was morphine.
Awesome.
I'm a morphine guy.
Nice. So they make my wife sign a bunch of paperwork. Like they would not let me leave by myself. And they made my wife sign a bunch of paperwork that I wasn't allowed to make financial decisions. I couldn't make important decisions. Don't do podcasts.
For how long?
24 hours.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they were very hell bent on that. And then the next day I go see.
Because of the.
I guess the fentanyl or the whatever. You're kind of compromised. And so the next day I go see the doctor. He's very happy with how the surgery went. The double vision it's I would say it's not double. It's like 1 1/8 right now. So there's a little extra U right now.
Yeah.
Driving's a little weird because like heavy movement. I'm like, oh shit, it's like getting a little weird. But I know what 4K is like.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, everything's so bright and vibrant. And like I don't have.
It's easier to look you in the eye now too, because it was for a while. It was getting like your one eye was kind of drifting a little bit.
I was a little cross-eyed.
You were getting a little dead eye.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say anything, but
why didn't you?
Something.
Better left unsaid. I would wake up in the morning and that eye would just be like turning right. So I'm like, what's going on here? So I think that's part of the problem. The doctor hopes that the double vision will go away. Since it's getting better, he feels like it will. But if not, I had to go see like a pediatric ophthalmologist for that kind of drifting eye deal.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing because after the surgery, it was very cloudy. And today I could read, like just using the left eye, which had the surgery, I could read license plates as I'm driving with that one eye. So it's a modern medical miracle.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I know how concerned you were with my vision and sight. So let's get into weird things that have happened at your school. And I'm going to start off with something weird that happened at mine. Whilst I was recovering from surgery, 3 stray German shepherds came inside the school while people were training. Apparently, they had been attacked by a skunk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'd been skunked. And
how's your gym?
Oh, great.
Does it stink?
No.
More than usual?
What do you mean more than usual? What's that? What's that supposed to mean?
No, nothing. Your gym smells great.
I don't know if I believe anything you're saying right now. So yeah, they had come in and Bill Bell was and Tim Williams were there and they were kind of running the show. And Bill Bell said that they came in like they had been there a million times, went right to the back, and all started hanging out in one of the changing rooms. Yeah.
Maybe they have been there before.
I don't know. And but I guess it was during like a crazy rainstorm. I think it rained Tuesday night. So we'd reached out to all other school owners or students to see if they've had any weird things happen. And we got one reply from our friend and owner at Mainline United, Steve Bowers.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good one too.
Yeah, I don't know. You think it's
police standoff across the street?
I mean, it's like a white suburban neighborhood.
That's even more impressive.
Nah, it was probably some like brown guy that was living there.
More racism, huh?
I know. Yeah.
No,
So we had a police standoff across the street, complete with blockade, sniper rifles in Ardmore. That doesn't impress me.
I would like to hear more about it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very weird.
What? So like, you could have a police standoff. It could have been in a bank. Like a guy went to work with a gun.
Right, a guy's holding his wife hostage.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I would want to know.
We need more backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe
It would have been even weirder if it was like one of his students.
That'd be good.
That'd be way better. But Steve, I'm unimpressed by your story. I
think
appreciate
the weirdest
you sharing.
thing. I'm trying to think of the weirdest thing that's happened. There was a kid that used to take shits on the mat, like
Like full-blown turds?
He used to shit himself during class. And it wasn't one of my classes. It was at the gym that I was teaching at,
Okay.
jiu-jitsu. During the Muay Thai class, he would...
When you say a kid, how old?
like a teenager.
Okay.
Like too old to be shitting himself.
Right. Well, you're usually too old to be shitting yourself around 3.5.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you
Like every time,
I know a lot of guys.
I'm not one to talk because accidents will happen.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything about present company, but at a certain age, you might start shitting yourself again. But usually in your teens, you have control of it. And this, I don't think was. It was like a defiant sort of like. It was shitting out of anger. He didn't want to be there. I think his mom was forcing him to go to class.
So these were defiant shits.
Yes, very defiant. And it happened more than once. So it's not like there's something severely psychologically wrong with that kid that he would first do that, and he didn't say anything about it. He never like went over.
So would any of it dribble out of his pants?
Yes, onto the mat. It was on the mat.
It was full blown, like a dog turd, like when Wapo as a puppy took a shit on my mat.
They
Something
weren't
like that.
not that solid.
Okay.
A little bit more.
A little mushier. Did he come with his own like bag like dog owners do to pick it up?
No.
He would just leave it there.
He wanted it there. And he wanted everyone to experience it.
As a sign of fecal dominance.
Mm-hmm. It is a thing that people do. Like people will do it out of anger. It happens in jail a lot. People will throw shit on each other. So it's a sort of very primal way of like expressing dominance.
So, like the act of throwing feces on somebody isn't the fact that you're showing dominance by shitting. It's the fact of getting shit on somebody else.
Wait, what's that?
Like getting the feces on somebody else. That's the dominant part.
His dominance was, I don't want to be here. I'm shitting on this place. I'm shitting on the mats of this place that I don't want to be on.
I literally
I'm shitting on it. Yeah. That's where I think that's where that.
See, this is way better than Steve Bauer's literally shitty fucking.
Yeah, well, no, I think
standoff story.
His story, I would be.
If it was fecal related, like that would be more interesting.
I would like to hear more about his story.
All right, maybe we can get him on or have him. Do we have the ability to do a call-in show at some point?
So it was weird enough that the guy did it once. The kid did it once.
Right.
And then, we made him clean it up.
Okay.
We got the mats.
Put his nose in it?
I wish. The craziest part is that he actually came back to do class again. And then maybe like a week or two later, same thing. Shit all over the floor.
All like how?
It did like
good solid turds.
I think once his pants were filled with shit, I think that as he would walk, it would fall out into the floor. Onto the floor.
From what you could tell, how high in fiber was his diet?
I don't know. I mean, the consistency of your turds depends on a lot of factors. It could have been
fiber is a good if you're high in fiber, usually very.
Does it give you a solid one?
Solid with good texture.
So he was probably this guy probably had a high fat. He's doing keto.
Because the reason I know this is going to the doctor with my mom, and she's got they ask her about how her shits are. That's always a fun conversation. Mom, how is your shit? So this guy oily, like he's been eating Olestra?
I don't think they make Olestra anymore. They haven't for several years.
Suspend disbelief.
No, there were. It was somewhat liquidy from what I remember. There was like droplets, but not liquidy.
Not diarrhea.
Not diarrhea, but a very like soft serve, like some melted ice cream.
How long did this happen for?
That happened twice, I believe.
And then you guys had to say, "Hey, he can't shit on the mats."
Well, we did tell him that. I forget again. Like it didn't happen during my class. I was coming in to teach jiu-jitsu on those mats afterwards, and I had to wait. Class had to start a little bit late.
You got set up cones and have
yes, we did. We did set up cones.
Avoid this area.
But the mat, we used good mat cleaner, so it was taken care of.
Nice.
And I don't think it really stunk the place up too much. But the kid just the reason why, like a normal person would have been so embarrassed, they probably never would have come back.
Right.
If it was an accident.
Well, you think
that's what makes it not an accident, is the fact that he came back and defiantly did it again.
Because years ago when we used to have the kids class, we had a kid shit, and it just was like a little dribble come out of his.
It's a little kid.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Little kids.
Much more acceptable than a teenager doing it in defiance.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable.
He didn't pick it up with his bare hands, did he?
No.
All right.
No, he I think he went to the bathroom, cleaned himself up, and then came and
yeah, that's really weird. Did you have a talk with his parents?
I didn't. I forget. I think they must have. They must have said something to him.
Yeah, that's way weirder than 3 stray dogs that have been skunked.
Yeah.
You topped both of. Well, it was easy to top Steve Bowers' story. Everyone, if you got a weird story of people shitting on your mats,
Send a detailed story.
Yeah,
So
detailed.
Bowers,
Yeah.
send us a detailed story.
Yeah, we'd love to get more details on that because right now it's not super interesting. So we'd like to thank everybody for all the reviews and ratings on iTunes. I think we're up to 38 ratings.
But
like
we
10
also
or
want to
15
chastise
reviews.
the people that have not rated and reviewed us. yet.
No. We don't want to chastise. We want to thank them for giving us future reviews.
I chastise.
All right, Tim chastises. He's maybe hoping that you don't review us. I'm hoping that you do review us without chastising you. So we'll play good cop. We'll play good podcast, bad podcast. What the? Is that your phone ringing?
It's my phone. Hold on 1 second.
That's.
I don't know what to do. We'll just wait till it
How about you
stops.
take your headphones off? You can walk over, shut that off, and so as we're in the studio, Tim's phone's going off as he's trying to record for YouTube. You might want to put it on airplane mode. So any reviews would be great. We really appreciate the ones that we've gotten. We're getting a lot of really good feedback from people. We've actually gotten some emails about the training mask that we'll get into one of them today. We have a question. So also, if you have a question, you can send it in through the website. There's a direct link to the email address there at ninjarob.com, or you can email us directly at ninjarobpodcast@gmail.com with any questions. And if you need to be anonymous, we'll respect that. Or if you use a service like Gorilla Mail, it'll just anonymize. And people seem to be
Anonymized. Did we find out that's an actual word?
It is a word, yeah.
Is it? That's cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
that's the second time you've complimented me on the use of that word. Thank you.
So it's a rare word to get to use.
Yeah, but we're using it. Yeah. Hey, 2 things that we haven't gotten into. Well, probably one thing that we haven't gotten into, and a question, because how's things with Nikki?
Good. Well, she's in another country right
I
now.
know, but how did last
they're
week?
Great.
Speaking of getting into things, how did last week go?
Great.
Yeah? You think the timing was right?
I think so.
Yeah? Get your fingers crossed. My man.
Yeah. But we'll find out.
Are you hoping for a boy or a girl?
What do you think? Come on.
Doesn't matter to you. Healthy.
Of course I want a boy.
Why not a girl?
I don't know. I just don't know what to do with a girl.
Way smarter.
Really?
Yeah.
Not in my experience.
If you get a group of children under the age of 12.
Well, yeah.
You wanted a debate team, you'd probably fill it with girls.
Over the age of 12, the debate team, I think they just start
I
crying.
don't have too much interaction with any kids over 12 years old, so I don't really know. But under 12, I'm going
for
with
sure.
girls
That's
are like
something I noticed.
astrophysicists compared to boys.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot in my kids' classes. Like the girls at that age are like far superior to the
Even
boys.
though everybody says there's no difference, anecdotally, I see that's not
Who
true
says
at
there's
all.
no difference?
Science.
No, science says that there's huge difference.
Really?
Hmm?
What science?
The good science. The right one.
The same people that say that the Earth is melting and that kind of good science.
I don't know. I don't know.
Polarized caps.
I haven't researched that.
So not the same people that are doing climate science.
No. That's
That's bad science.
fake science. It's
Okay,
fake
I just
science.
wanted to make sure where your head's at with science. So and what was I saying? Oh, you're leaving for Hungary.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? And next week we're gonna have a guest host.
Are you gonna say who, or is it gonna be a surprise?
No, I think we should tell people. Maybe make them get them excited. Our good friend. He sends in questions. He's also very interesting. Very interesting because he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Very interesting because he's a highly educated black belt. I always get too confused. He's a psychiatrist.
He's a psychiatrist.
He's a psychiatrist. So he's an MD.
A Yale
Yes.
graduated psychiatrist.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing against DOs, but he's an MD.
Right. He's the real deal.
He's the real deal. So he's going to be in, and we're going to, if we can have everyone send in questions, if they want it to be related to mental health, we'll have an expert on mental health and how that affects your jiu-jitsu training. Or if you have any just questions in general on how you manage time, because he was able to train and do jiu-jitsu and achieve his black belt while becoming an MD. So people that use the excuse that they're too busy, there's a guy that was clearly unbelievably busy and still made the time.
Training, working, going to school, everything.
Yeah. He's a man about town. Mm-hmm. Very, very successful. So NJ, or as we like to call him, Nedson Campbell, will be on next week while Tim's away. It'll be a nice it'll be nice to have a learned doctor on as opposed to you.
An unlearned doctor.
Yes, or savage. Do you want to read the first as we get into our question and answer period?
Yeah. So this is from Rich Hernandez.
Yes, you know Rich.
I know Rich.
Yeah.
Good brown belt from Web BJJ.
Yes.
Hey guys, love the podcast. Would be great if it were longer.
Heyo.
Anyway, my question is, as a brown belt, what should I be focusing on at this point in my journey?
So I think he's probably made one of the biggest revelations that he can make is that he's on a journey, right? And this is kind of ever evolving. I don't know exactly if he's looking for technical advice or kind of, like non-technical advice here. But I think, for any student out there, brown belt or not, it's kind of understanding that this is a journey, and journeys are something that's long-term and or lifetime, right? And he understands that already. I think the thing that he should be focusing on is maybe not focusing on anything, just kind of giving himself to jiu-jitsu and giving himself to his instructor. Because his instructor, Jonathan Webb's highly accomplished mixed martial artist, black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, more than likely has a destination that he wants Rich to kind of work towards, right? And sometimes giving that up to your instructor can be very liberating for a student and saying, maybe at this point I don't need to worry about how I'm getting better. I'm just going to go in, take class because I trust my instructors that much that my instructor has the path and the program for me to get me to what maybe it's trying to get him to from brown to black. These are the things you need to do technically for Jonathan to want to give him his black belt. But I don't think there's any one particular answer that a brown belt needs to focus on during the journey. I think kind of, especially since he's a student and not an instructor, kind of making sure that he's obviously an active part of his school, but trusting his instructors that they have a path highlighted for him.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. There's not like one thing that all brown belts should work on. But from white belt to black belt and beyond, you should be just working on improving and adding new skills. So if he wants like a sort of like an organized way to approach it, I would say pick one sort of aspect of your game. Like if it's sweeps, try to add a new sweep or a new sort of guard. So a lot of people, most people tend to just always go with what they're good at and stop adding new.
Yes, especially in live training with tougher guys, right?
Right. So a lot of people, and that I think a lot of times leads to why people get stagnant in training and
or A game versus A game.
Right. And you can be successful with it, and you can also get to the point where like maybe people can't. If you got like really good butterfly guard, people can't pass your butterfly guard. You can sweep most people, and even if you don't sweep them, they're stuck there the whole time.
Right.
But you're not actually getting better, and they're probably not really getting better either. If they're either just getting swept or so. At that point, as a brown belt, you kind of have a game. You should have a game by that point. So then it's a matter of
his
like,
game is very good.
Right.
You know what
it's
I'm
just a
saying?
matter of like expanding it, like constantly expanding it and expanding it. So it's like if you're really good at, I think he's got really good like deep half guard, right? If I remember,
I know his top pressure is really good. Like everyone like training with him, he's got good top pressure, which I'm.
If I remember last time, I think he's like a good deep half guard guy. So for him, I would say maybe ignore deep half guard for a while and work on butterfly guard or lasso guard, something else.
Right.
As that'll open up everything. I like to always try to like take. I don't really have a time frame attached to it, but I'll take like a month or 6 weeks and just focus on like one thing.
As you go into your live training,
when I go to train, it's like today I'm working on. For the last like several weeks, I've been working on taking the back when people try to leg lock me.
Okay.
So I've been putting myself in lots of leg lock positions and try to get to the back from there. And I think after you'll get to a certain point. First couple weeks, like you'll get beat a lot, you'll get your guard pass, you'll get foot locked a lot, everything's going to go wrong, and then eventually you'll figure it out, and then by like the 6th, 7th, 8th week, you're destroying everybody with them.
Right,
those
losing has to be part of that journey of adding techniques to your repertoire.
And then once it's in you, then like once you get to the point where you're kind of catching everybody with it, then you kind of have it in your arsenal, and you can go back and mix it in with other stuff. So then if somebody's beating your deep half guard, now you have an option B to go to instead of just kind of like being stuck.
And I think that the advice you're giving him leads into something we talked about a few weeks ago, and referencing our boy Kai Serm, where you talked about less than, equal than, and greater than, and using that model as well when you're trying to, having certain training partners. If you're trying to implement, say, what you're talking about, like taking the back off of leg locks. Well, you're not going to do that against the best leg. You don't want to start that against the best leg locker. It's like, okay, you let your students start off, or your friends that are not nearly as good as you or lower belts, and you start off in a leg lock, then go from there, get comfortable. All right, what are my options? Moving up as you progress through that self-study. I know, I think I'm attributing this to Lloyd, where he would tell people to take notes during training if they don't know what to work on, right? And take some notes and use that as a guide for what you start to work on. If you're, like you're saying, if your deep half is getting passed, then putting yourself in deep half every time to kind of imprint where the problems are. So then you can also come back to your instructor with some solid questions.
I remember Lex Friedman. He was really good at I remember.
Is it Friedman or Friedman?
I don't know.
Okay.
I like Friedman.
I like Friedman.
All right. I remember at one point he was working straight ankle locks, and he would like do around, and he wasn't doing anything other than straight ankle locks when he was working on straight ankle locks. So he wouldn't try to pass the guard. He wouldn't try to pull close guard. It was just like straight ankle lock from wherever he could get it. And as soon as the round was over, he would run over to his notebook and like write down how many times he got it in that round. And I think he did it for like a month. And I remember first time he tried it on me, it like wasn't even close. It was like terrible. And then a month, 6 weeks later, he caught me with one. You know what I mean? So it was like, I saw the process and the improvement like right in front of my eyes. I was like, wow, that's.
So when that was going on, you told me about that.
Yeah.
And I trained with him, and I was like, I have good foot lock defense.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think my foot's gonna break here. I got to tap.
Yeah. And that was the thing, is like I thought that he was still at the trying it out level.
No. It seems like he was at the getting it to work.
So then
level.
I was like, oh, he's got no foot locks. And then so
there you go. Yeah, that's a really good example. Good question, Rich. Work it up the flagpole and trust your instructor.
And never stop doing that. So you never run out of new things you can add to your game. Like you could be doing it 25, 50 years. You can still be doing that and adding new things in.
I'd like to read this next one. By the way, this almost didn't make it on the show. There's been argument. There's a big argument, pre-show argument over this. Because it's not really a question. It's more of a statement. Dear Ninja Rob, when will Tim Carpenter fess up that he knows little to nothing about Bruce Lee? He sounded like a Taekwondo guy saying, Bruce Lee was only a first-degree black belt. My instructor is a 10th Dan. You do the math. It was just sad to hear someone as sharp as Tim Carpenter spewing nonsense out of his mouth. Sad. Just sad. Perhaps he should stick to subjects he is knowledgeable about, such as MMA, BJJ, bacon, haircutting techniques. I didn't realize you know about haircutting techniques? I don't know.
I know I can shave my own head.
That's awesome. That's not really like difficult either.
No.
Best regards, Bob Jinga, BJJ black belt, Thai boxing instructor minus official certification, Cali assistant instructor minus skill, Kempo JKD black belt, advisor to the stars black belt.
Also undefeated in Muay Thai.
Yeah, he does have. He spent some time in Thailand. But you can read the next one. I just wanted to.
No. I want to address this because and his credentials say it all. He's bought into the JKD Kool-Aid. He's a JKD black belt.
I don't think they give that belt in JKD, do they?
Well, it's a fake martial art. It's like it's not like a real thing. And
the argument is none of it's a real thing.
My knowledge of Bruce Lee is pretty solid. Like I understand what he really is, whereas Bobby doesn't. Bobby
apparently Bobby has taken some
spent a lot of time wasting his time in a JKD class.
He's taken umbrage with your statements on Bruce Lee.
Well, and I never said I never sounded like a Taekwondo. I just said the guy wasn't. The thing about Bruce Lee was he was.
Wait, how do you know you didn't sound like a Taekwondo guy?
Because I don't sound like a Taekwondo guy.
Well, maybe not to you, but to Bobby apparently. I mean, we have it down in black and white. Yeah. You sounded like a Taekwondo guy. That's very shameful if people think.
My statement was that Bruce Lee wasn't a fighter. He'd never had a fight in his life. So
documented fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is the only ones that really count.
Okay.
If it's not documented, who cares? He was an actor. He was an actor. He was an actor, a dancer, a philosopher.
And I was just reading
everything
lines
other than a fighter.
I was just reading lines here because I don't want this to drive a stake between you and I. Right, Bobby's statement, but I mean, we gotta give the fans the right. If we're gonna let them send in questions, we could also let them send in statements, rebuttals.
Yeah.
If you have a rebuttal, we'll take it.
Send us rebuttals.
Yeah.
And buttles.
I got nothing. Go ahead. You want to read the next one?
This is a good one. I like this one. What are the mandatory martial arts matches, movies/documentaries besides UFC 1 that are a must? If you, your YOU''RE.
I believe he's got a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. If you're doing jiu-jitsu.
Tim's snobbery comes out, even with his own black belts.
Yeah. If you're doing, every time I read it, it fucking kills me. If you're doing jiu-jitsu.
I hope you never make a grammatical error ever.
No, I don't. Even when I text, I'll rewrite a whole text if I misspell something.
Yeah, I let him fly. I don't.
I know. Oh, I know.
At least I know how to shut my phone off.
If you're doing jiu-jitsu or MMA, my favorites are Smashing Machine. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Minotauro versus Bob Sapp. That's a good one. Smashing Machine being a movie, Minotauro Bob Sapp being a
fight.
Classic MMA fight. What would be others you could suggest to the new jiu-jitsu/MMA students? From Steve Wilson, Hellfish black belt.
So Smashing Machine is actually
grammatical white belt.
Is actually a really good documentary, even if it wasn't about MMA.
Yeah.
Just like watching the downfall of Mark Kerr and what Pride was like, and how I think they had clearly stated on their contracts, we don't test for steroids, and how he was looking for opiates. What would your recommendations be, Tim? But I wanted to throw that in there as a really good documentary.
Choke.
Yes, agree 100%. Why?
And he said, because I was talking to Steve about this, he said choke he was like, it was just okay. And I was like, yeah, but it's like now with the UFC, you see like a UFC behind the scenes every week. You can see hour-long documentaries of fighters training and stuff. But back then it was like, there was nothing to see. You didn't know how anybody got ready for a fight. So to get to see like Rickson Gracie sitting in an ice cold river,
but also like Rickson having been like the boogeyman of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, everyone talked about how good he was, and this myth type legendary fighter, and to get a backdoor access,
and it was also.
I knew you'd like that one.
It was also cool to see. My favorite part was the bobsled guy, Todd Haynes.
Yes.
Like watching him train and him talk shit and then go out like such a bitch.
His gym was like Apollo's.
Yeah, that guy, Dale Apollo Cook. That guy was like a real deal kickboxer, like American style kickboxer.
Right. With the shiny pants.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was a great one. But matches, man, I think people need to watch the first 4 UFCs.
Okay.
Prides, watch the Prides with like Fedor. I really think like out of Pride you just want to take like Fedor, Crow Cop, and Minotauro, because I think other than those guys and Vanderlei, there was tons of like really watch all the Prides. I changed my mind. Watch all the Prides. Just be aware when you watch Pride that a lot of them were fixed, a lot of them were fake, and they would just do crazy like
hard style wrestling matches.
Yeah. So all the Prides are good. The Brazilian Vale Tudos from like the late 90s, early 2000s, like the bare knuckle stuff.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people don't realize like MMA today is not real fighting when they have those gloves on. You can't punch like that. You can't really have a 5-round back and forth striking war without gloves on.
Yeah, if you watch the last bare knuckle fight with Paulie Malignaggi and Artem Lobov, I think it definitely broke one hand and almost broke the other.
Because guys break their hands with gloves on.
Right.
If you watch the old Brazilian Vale Tudo fighting, it's a lot of headbutts, a lot of elbows and knees, and a lot of grappling. So I think it's a little bit more realistic. It's not as high paced. It's almost a completely different martial art than you see MMA now, but I think people should watch that. Gracie in action.
Are you gonna take up all the good ones, or?
Oh, hold on. With Gracie in action, I think everyone that has ever trained any martial art should watch those.
Yeah, I think those are awesome. Like,
those might be the most important for like a brand new person to watch, to sort of understand like what jiu-jitsu is
and how the UFC and MMA came to be.
Right.
Yeah. Now, from a historical standpoint, I think from a historical standpoint as well, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's that other documentary, Gracie's The Birth of Vale Tudo, which is...
It's all in Portuguese, right?
No, it's actually...
Does that have subtitles?
It's all in English, in some cases subtitled in Portuguese, and then when they interview some Brazilians, it's the opposite. That it's English subtitles.
I think I did
about
see it.
70% of it might be in English. Right? It's unbelievably well done. I think that gives you also deeper insight into the Gracie family, into who was fighting and why they were fighting and doing what they were doing. I agree with you, Gracie in Action, the original UFCs. From a jiu-jitsu competition matches, I think one that really comes to mind would be, and this was a brown belt match from back in the day where it's Flavio Almeida versus Margarita, which is like a really exciting match at the Worlds. I think it was in 99 or 2000, if you were looking for some cool matches. That's it. That's it from me.
Yeah.
Moving on. What do we got? Oh, I'll read this one. Speaking of the Gracies, do you believe the Gracie family is part of the Illuminati? In Carlos Gracie biography book, it says Halls Gracie discovered the triangle choke when he saw Japanese judokas using it and told his family about it so they wouldn't get beat by it. Makes sense since Elio loved collar chokes. Anyway, the Gracie symbol is the triangle. What do you think? Could they possibly be part of it? You think they could be part of? Do you think they could be part of the pedophile rings? Think about it. What is the best way to get kids martial arts programs? All of their Hollywood and Brazilian politician connections. Look how many celebrities are hopping on the BJJ training now. LOL. I'm not saying jiu-jitsu is connected to pedophile because it is the art itself, but I'm asking if the family could possibly be part of something. Some crazy guy. Clearly, he didn't need to sign off as some crazy guy. Are the Gracies part of some Illuminati? No. Do they have some specialized knowledge that other people don't have? Yes. If that makes them quote unquote Illuminati, then I guess that makes them Illuminati. But they don't, they're not tied into the Rothschilds or the Bank of International Settlements. Tim got a little nervous when I mentioned the Rothschilds. So,
I think. Are you done? Okay.
Yeah. Nah.
I think he might be onto something. I wouldn't go so far as to say
Pizzagate?
I wouldn't say they're involved in Pizzagate, but I think there's way more to the Gracie family than people think, and that the Gracie family has let on. If you listen to like the history of it, how they say like the great grandfather was like highly politically connected and very successful and wealthy, but they never say like what he did.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he did any of that stuff. Also, I don't think Elio fought the guys that were 100 pounds heavier than him, like they always say. He might have fought guys heavier than him, but the guy might have been 30 pounds. They converted in the metric system.
But like, where did they were a wealthy family?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they were, and they still are. They're like sort of like aristocratic in Brazil.
Which reminds me of a good joke.
So where did it? So where did all their money come from?
Probably teaching jiu-jitsu.
Before that, before they knew jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think a lot of this stuff is all narrative and all storytelling at a time where storytelling could get you really far, and could get people to believe. Like if you could tell a compelling story, you could get people to believe it, and it was very difficult to fact check a lot of that stuff. So I don't believe that they had any. They were any more important than anybody else.
You don't think so?
No. Oh. Other than in the martial arts, like. I think you're kind of feeding into just crazy martial arts lore there that they had some, special connections and.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just talking about business wise. Their family was like supposedly a successful family in Brazil.
Usually, immigrant families that leave their home country, it's either they're leaving because they want to start industries somewhere, right? Like they're very wealthy, or they're really poor. So I don't know if they were very wealthy, then why would they? But
they're super powerful in Brazil now.
I don't think so.
The Gracies?
I don't think they're super powerful.
I mean, Gracie Baja is like they're like worldwide with jiu-jitsu. I think Horian's in Brazil now, so like the really wealthy guys in the family I think are all in Brazil now.
They move back with American dollars, and it like doubles or triples their net worth.
But Elio Gracie had this big ranch that people would go to and
land's
train.
Inexpensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's inexpensive.
Land and construction aren't that crazy expensive.
Hold on. Most people in Brazil don't own a bunch of land.
No, they don't because they're very poor.
So compared to here, it's very cheap.
Yes.
But you don't have land in Brazil unless you're fairly wealthy.
Right. And those guys you were referencing made a lot of money here and brought it back.
Elio did?
No. I'm talking about Horian.
I'm talking about Elio. I'm talking about the original, and I'm also you're right. I am going off of like what they said, but where's the martial arts mystique come in if they're trying to make something up about being politically connected when they were young, like their family being politically connected?
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying what I think is the Gracies are part of like some sort of organized crime family. So that's what I think.
The reason that it might give you some credence to believe it is because of their level of skill in a certain area that you're really fond of, right? Like since they're really good at
what would
jiu-jitsu,
the benefit be of them making that up?
it just helps sell the story.
How? It would, I think
Clearly it gets you talking about it.
Normally, a better story is we had nothing, we came from nothing, and then it's not usually like, well, we were a really rich family, and then we learned how to beat people up too. That's not the usual story that people make up.
And they came up with a better one, clearly.
No, I mean, you're just saying that it might not be true.
And you're saying it might be true.
I'm going on what they said.
Right.
It's all we have.
Yeah, we don't have their W-2
So we
forms.
can't just say like, oh, but it was all bullshit.
No, and we can't say it was all the
It
truth.
seems like
either.
you have a real thing against these guys.
No, I don't know because we don't have the facts, right? We have some stories that people have told that have kind of weaved its way into the jiu-jitsu community as fact, and in a lot of cases,
So
because they
don't they
also
talk
said-
about this in Gracie's and the Birth of Vale Tudo?
They might, but
So we're gonna go. Can we? You just recommended that as a documentary. Now should we look at that as
no,
maybe
but I think
some
you should look
a
at
source of
everything
some-
with a little bit of skepticism. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Because they're the ones producing it, right? Like who benefits from a Gracie documentary coming? Who would benefit from a Tim Carpenter documentary?
Everyone, the entire world,
right? Exactly.
But like I said, I don't see the benefit in them making something up about. Yeah, our family was well off and politically connected in the early 1900s.
So, but they've also made up. There was a point where Hickson says he's 500 or 436 and 0.
Mm-hmm.
Are we to believe that?
Well, I remember reading on his website. He said this includes sparring and rolling.
He adjusted
and
that
sport
later,
matches.
right? Even his father said in an interview, he's like, "Well, if that's the case, I'm 1,000 and 0 or 10,000 and 0." Yeah,
And they made up records for a lot of guys back then.
And then
everybody
there's recordings of Elio that I've watched and listened to. He's like, my sons are all unbeatable. They're undefeated. Well, that's not true. They've been defeated. They have, so there's some of it where like, okay, when it all comes out, maybe it's not as accurate because they talk about this in the Birth of Vale Tudo, where some of the Elio-sided narrative is untrue because Horian wanted to control the story, right? So that's also what I'm, using the Birth of Vale
Tudo. But I think the part about them being politically connected, that was kind of everybody kind of agrees on that.
But that could be true, right?
The family being well off, I think everybody kind of agrees with that.
Well, I don't know if they were like how well, like because I don't know.
Maybe not compared to the Rothschilds
or the Waltons.
Right. But I would say by Brazilian standards,
right?
They're probably
again, I don't know. Like I
know
just
you
a
don't
little
know. I think, but I think
neither do you.
Well, I'm going off what they say.
Right. So, and I'm going off what they said too. I'm just not apt
You're
to believe
just
it.
choosing not to believe it.
That's it. Not to believe.
Right,
just a little bit of skepticism.
All right, we're gonna look into this. And
if somebody could get the Gracie financials,
now there's
for
a
us.
book called Choke. It's spelled CHOQUE.
Okay.
And it's about the non-Gracie.
Like Fada and all those guys.
It's like a bunch of those guys. So it's like it's not a book about the Gracies, but the Gracies are in. There's stories about the Gracies in it, but it's not a pro-Gracie book.
Those are some of the stories that if you look into that they talk about. That's not the Gracies aren't everything that they said they were. Right, that narrative. But so whatever. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you over. Well, I did argue.
Yeah, you just did.
So, like I said, I will argue
again for no reason.
No. Just to make sure that the listeners know we're fair and balanced.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
All right. Is using the sole/bottom of your foot a valid way to finish a choke? Should you train mean, harsh techniques in the gym? If so, how do you accomplish this without being a dick? This has been anonymized.
It just came in as it came in as anonymous.
I know it's been anonymized. He anonymized himself.
Okay.
No need to argue.
No, man.
I know, but you're trying to find. I can see the wheels turn in your head. You're trying to be like, how can I argue with this?
No. It's just I could see the wheels much better now because both of my eyes work. I don't know. Like, how many chokes involve the sole of your foot? How many can you reel off?
Yeah, I wonder what choke he's talking about.
Maybe I just saw one recently that involved the leg, like a Hindu guillotine or whatever it's called. You know that 10th planet guillotine?
Move.
I watched them choke some dude to sleep with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know too many chokes that involve the foot.
So this is the thing. You kind of have it in your answer here. How do you accomplish this without being a dick? You don't. You do that if you want to be a dick.
Using your foot?
Right. Like I would do, there's a thing.
There's no real way to make a rear naked choke better with your foot.
Right. There's very few times you can make a choke better with your foot, but I would do a thing where I would like have a guy in an armbar and I would stomp my foot into his throat or put it in his mouth just to like make it, just to be a dick. I would do it.
What part of your foot?
The bottom of my foot. I would
sole.
the sole of my foot. I would put it like into his throat and stomp into his neck, or I would put it like across his mouth. But I would only do this if I didn't like the person.
So Priola used to do that hard leg extension with the leg that's over the head, where he'd slam down on your face with the back of his hamstring.
So you would only do that to be a dick,
right? Or to get the arm lock.
Yeah, I mean, you can. There's a thing about like if you're training really hard, you gotta like if you're doing competition style training, and then you rip the arm as hard as you can to try to break it loose or whatever. That's one thing. But if you're just like if you're rolling with somebody that you're better than, and you're putting your foot in their face or whatever, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any kind of like technical jiu-jitsu that involves chokes being assisted by solely using.
And this is my same point about doing the meathead moves. Is that you can accomplish like no one sees like those dirty moves and is like and admires it. That. I hope someday I want to be able to do that. Right. Like people watch guys like Hadra Gracie.
Maybe catch wrestlers.
Yeah, but you watch a guy like Hadra Gracie, people will watch that and they're like, man, that's amazing. He just like sweeps people, takes their back and chokes them. Yeah. That's what's impressive. Not putting your hand in somebody's face.
So speaking of like being effortless, like who are some guys that you watch in jiu-jitsu and you're like, God damn, this guy's really good, but it doesn't look effortless?
Trying to think. Buchecha, maybe.
Think it doesn't look well. Okay.
No, he looks like a total spaz.
Right.
Like he's like an incredibly technical spaz.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he has these like big explosions of effort and movement, and then he kind of like chills for a while, and it's like a big explosion. So it doesn't look effortless. Like a guy like
Where do you think, like for no gi, what do you think of Gordon Ryan?
Yeah, he looks pretty effortless. Yeah. A no-gi guy that doesn't look effortless would be like the guy Tex Johnson. Like he looks like he's trying to rip something off of you.
Like he's struggling through every single technique he has to do.
Not necessarily struggling. Like he has his like moves that he's like good at, but it's like when he gets, I think there's a difference between like sort of power guys and technique guys.
Right.
And like everybody's a combination of both, but some guys, they'll grab your leg and no matter where they have your leg, they'll just crank it and try to break your shin in half.
Right.
And then some guys try to do what looks effortless, like a tight technical finishing hold, So, like I said, it usually requires a high level of athleticism or strength to be the power guy. Whereas a guy like Keenan Cornelius is like so technical that sometimes it looks effortless.
He's probably really strong, but like he's more technical than he's ever going to be strong.
But your technique makes you stronger than your muscles do,
Nice. I thought I had a good question. That was good. That was a good answer, Tim. So yeah, don't be a dick. Don't use the sole of your foot.
Unless you want to be like, only do that if you want to be a dick.
Right.
If you're concerned about being a dick, don't put your...
Look at all the high level guys and count how many of them use the sole of their foot to finish a choke.
Right.
So, all right, I'll read this next one, which is part commentary, part question. In a desperate need to procrastinate, I looked into the training mask. I looked into it, and training masks do work, but they do not work as advertised. The one study that I looked at said training masks function as a respiratory muscle training device. Essentially, the mask improves your ability to breathe forcefully while exercising. This study didn't find changes in hemoglobin like one would expect from training at altitude. But the study was only 6 weeks with participants who did not wear the training mask 24/7 like Bane. Sounds like Bane could break backs easier if he took off the mask once in a while.
This is exactly what I said.
Yeah. So he was agreeing with you.
I have science backs it up.
You have a doctor backing you up who read some science. And I'm trying to figure out what the breathing muscle is.
The breathing muscle is your lungs.
They're a muscle? That was an organ.
Well, your heart's a muscle and an organ.
It's like Antarctica. It's a country and a continent. Same thing with Australia.
Yeah.
So who would win in a fight? Batman, BJJ black belt, or Tim, your ninja NJ?
I would say me.
No way.
Why not?
You don't have the belt. You don't have any devices.
I don't need devices.
You know, clearly. Because it's not going to make a difference.
That sounded like a pro me comment.
See, Batman would confuse you and defeat you. Number one, he's smarter than you. Number two, he probably fights better than you.
How is he smarter than me? He was born into money.
Access to better education makes him smarter than you.
Was he educated?
Having a richer family makes him smart. Everything.
Having a richer family makes him smarter than me?
Everything. Those two facts would lead me to believe, and after having some conversations with you, you probably believe this as well. Better educated, coming from a richer family, likely smarter than you. Right? So then giving him access to better trainers, access to better fight camps, in better shape, the best drugs, the best workouts. Bro, Batman.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Batman destroys you.
Batman destroys me.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
There's no contest.
No contest at all.
Movie, man, you really didn't put it clear. Like in the fight with Batman, you really didn't put up much of a fight.
All right, I got this one.
Yeah. He's a white belt, by the way. I wrote blue belt by accident.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. He's got to come to class more.
I have a question for each of you. Tim, when you were fighting, what kind of things were you looking to get out of your corner, coaches, in between rounds? And then Marco, when you are cornering a fighter, is there anything in particular you watch or look out for?
TJ McKeever,
NJMA white belt, someday blue belt if he comes more. In between rounds, I want to know, I mean, at a certain level, you know what's going on, but it's good. Like, it's always good to have a corner tell you, like, hey, he's moving. If there's something I'm not doing, to be like, hey, he's moving to his right with his left hand down. So throw something that'll be good in that situation. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that is good to hear. And then, it's always good to, sometimes you get out of round, you don't know whether you won or lost, so it's good to have third or fourth eye.
Right,
tell you like you lost that round.
You need to finish it's the last round.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's rare that you're not gonna like coach somebody through an arm lock or a double leg takedown but it's sometimes a really good striking coach can see openings that maybe you've worked on but you're not seeing, and then he can call it out. Same thing with the jiu-jitsu guy. He can tell you like, hey man, when he's on top of you, he's leaving his arm right around your neck. Like, you can easily exploit that, stuff like that. And then
for me,
for you,
yes, I think it less to do with technique and more to do with like trust and comfort. I think the important part of a corner is like, by the time the fight happens, all the work's been done.
Yeah.
The outcome is basically going to be the outcome. There might be a thing or two you could call out or say in between rounds, but usually not what makes a guy win a fight. Right. Yeah, you could, like you're saying, you could point a thing out, but I think, as a cornerman, you're there to continue on with that level of trust and comfort and be around a fighter that just like you make them oddly, this podcast doesn't express it, but like just being around you for fights, it was cool to be there and see you through the journey, but also know that like, hey man, whatever you need, I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm going to cut weight with you. I'm going to go get you dinner. I'm by your side, whatever you need, and having people around you that are going to support you and are going to lift you up, at your lows and take a step back at your highs, not take the spotlight from the guy who wins, but also be there to help a guy if and when he loses. But for me, I'm just looking for somebody that trusts and believes in me, because then it makes it way easier for me to trust and believe in them. Right, and then just go from there. So from a technique standpoint, the work is the work. We got to work on certain things. Like like what I look for in a fighter is somebody that I don't have to motivate from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Right, like I can get them from 90 to 100. That I can finish, but you got to come in with at least 90% of the motivation. If not, it's never going to work. I'll read this next one. It's from Jim. He's a 4th degree blue belt from Brock's MMA. Hey fellas. So I was curious as to what your thoughts were on using small bits of marijuana in your training and or recovery process after training. I started using marijuana roughly 8 months back for my medical issues. In the process, I noticed if I have a couple of puffs before training, my rolls are sublime. I'm not talking about being completely stoned. Thoughts?
Hey man, if you like it, keep doing it. I
know all the 10th Planet guys seem it might almost be like a prerequisite for training there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people get high before jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. People love it. Some people. I know people that never train without it. I know people that could never train with it. Like if using it would destroy them, they wouldn't be able to train on it, or so they say.
Yeah, I've never gotten high, like especially with marijuana, so I wouldn't know one way or another.
But hey,
use CBDs.
If you like it, go for it. I wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't say don't do it. And I think a lot of people, they like to use this medical stuff as like an excuse just to get high. And oh no, it's medicine. It's not drugs. It's not a recreational drug. You could have been doing it for a while for your cataract, right?
No, it's glaucoma.
I thought it did stuff for cataracts too. But yeah, I wonder what his medical issues were. That
who knows? Yeah, he a decent enough question. Yeah, I
keep it up, Jim. Blaze away.
I have no thoughts on it. I don't know and or care.
I don't know. It just seems like a very sort of childish
idea.
No, it's like one thing if you do it, but like keep it to yourself. When it becomes like a part of like the gym culture, I think that's when it gets a little weird. Yeah, that's when it gets kind of weird.
Especially if you have like a kid's class and you don't want that. Like kids.
Yeah.
You have to be an adult to make that decision. You don't want to kind of influence some kids in a bad way.
And you also want to, you want to make sure you're not going to be around a bunch of kids while you're high. It's just I don't know. I don't know what to feel about that.
Gotcha. You want to read the next and the last one?
The next and the last?
Yeah, there's no.
This next one is the last?
Yeah.
Hi guys. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the evolution of your game. At what point did you start developing your flavor / game of jiu-jitsu? What indicators do you use for determining if you're going to add a technique as one of your core moves? At what point do you put techniques away in favor of something new? Does your game still continue to evolve, or are you only tweaking minor details at this point in your journey? Is there such thing as a BJJ generalist, or does everyone specialize in certain areas? Really enjoying the podcast. This is from Kyle Abrahams. Is it Abrams or Abrahams?
I pronounce it Abrams.
Abrahams. NJMA Blue Belt.
So for me, I guess this is like how I evolved through being terrible into being great. So the evolution of the game, clearly when you're a white belt, you have certain things you do. Blue, you're adding techniques. Purple, I think we went through, some of this stuff in other podcasts. But I think my mindset on live training at one point changed because I would always equate it to being a jazz musician. Where I was like, all right, I don't have a set pattern of things I'm going to do. I'm just going to almost react to what's going on and go from there. And I'm just going to, I'll be not a counterer, but I'm just going to go where the jiu-jitsu takes me.
Right.
Right. And
live in the moment.
Live in the moment. Right. But now I've changed that a little bit with maybe going into it with certain plans. Like I want to get certain attacks off. I want to get to a certain position against certain people and see how things work from there. So not being the jazz musician, being like a well-trained classical musician where it's like, okay, these are the steps. These are the steps I'm going to use to get there, and this is what I'm going to use to dominate the positions. Is there a thing as a BJJ generalist, or is someone specialized in certain areas? I don't think, and you might have a different answer, Tim, but I don't know. You choose if you become a specialist. Like there's certain things that your jiu-jitsu and your physical attributes kind of trend towards where you might just generally be better at. Depending on how much time you have, then it's probably okay to specialize in certain things. If you want to be a high-level competitor, guys decided to specialize in leg locking if they're no-gi guys because it got them a lot of successes. But I think for the hobbyist, you might be better suited for your long-term, jiu-jitsu enrichment or betterment to look at a little bit more generally, being able to get better at different aspects of your game, not neglecting certain parts. You don't want to have one strong link that's connected with a weak link to another strong link.
Great answer.
Thank you. We can end the podcast on that.
No, I have a better one. I think white and blue belts are generalists. And then I think for me and for most people from what I see, you start sort of developing your game and during your purple belt years. Like that's when you sort of like start to hone in on maybe not the specific moves you're going to use, but like the just the direction you're going to go. You're going to be a guard guy, a top guy,
right? Like
that kind of thing.
But part of that is directed by also your instructors and your training partners, well, right? I mean, if your school is, very judo heavy, right? You had no choice in doing a lot of judo, so then you'll have some judo.
Yeah, but you can still be. I don't agree with that. No? I think you can still be at a judo and wrestling heavy school, and then you can still just pull guard.
No, what I'm saying is, but you're not saying that your instructors in school don't have an influence over your jiu-jitsu.
No.
Okay.
Of course they do. But there's no need to say that. It's part of their instructor. Of course they have an influence.
It's our repartee though.
And everyone, no matter, even if they're a complete generalist, like they're just as good in every position and at every submission, they're going to have ones that they favor, and ones that present themselves more often. But I think a lot of that also goes, like jiu-jitsu goes in waves of like how effective techniques are.
Popularity?
Yeah, like techniques get real popular. Everybody starts doing, like right now, leg locks. The last couple of years, leg locks have been big. But you're starting to see them like less and less.
There's a community-wide immunity that's happening.
Right. Then people get really good at defending them. And everybody learned leg locks now. And then it's gonna go back to other submissions.
Taking the back off of leg locks.
Right. Did you see Tex Johnson and Craig Jones?
I did. Don't ask me how I watched it though.
You stole somebody's flow grappling?
No. So I had somebody's password and login for flow grappling. Then when I go on my Roku TV to watch it, I guess an update happened and it kicked me out.
Nice.
Then I go through and I hit play on the event, and it played the event for me behind a thing that said wow. It showed like 3 minutes of the one match I wanted to see, which was Tex Johnson and Craig Jones.
Good.
As it was telling me to sign up for Flow Grappling. So I'd like to thank my sponsor, Flow Grappling, for letting me watch the Kasai Tex Johnson Craig Jones match, which was a really good match, by the way. For
real short
for Craig Jones.
Yeah.
Which was crazy because Tex Johnson just came off the biggest win of his jiu-jitsu career against a guy that doesn't really get submitted too much.
No, he's the best guy in the world, Nogi. He's doing the absolute.
Yeah, against Galvão.
Absolute super fight. Yeah. So I think around like right now as a blue belt, you should be a generalist. You should be like learning, something from every position. And then as you go into your next belt level, purple belt, next couple years, then you'll start figuring out your game, like what you're going to be really sort of focused on. And then, you never stop. You should always be adding. Like I said earlier, pick something different than what you're going to have your A game. So find a B game, start working on that, add it to and you never know, that might become your new A game, so.
Right. And who knows what your training partners are good at defending. And if you decide, okay, I want to get better at my offense than they are at their defense, there's another brick in your jiu-jitsu wall for them to have to climb over. So I have a question for you in relations to a technique where it relates to Kyle Abraham, because he's a big, strong guy. He's about 280 pounds, just competed.
Jesus.
And what?
I hate big guys.
Yeah. Big and strong guys. They're the worst, right? And he's getting better at jiu-jitsu. Anyway, so he tried to go for Uchi Mata, and it didn't work for him.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about it, and he was asking me what was wrong with the Uchi Mata, and I gave him, whatever advice I can give him. But I told him I didn't think, from a practical jiu-jitsu standpoint, that Uchi Mata was probably a good throw if he's not really good at it, because of some of the countering of it once you hit the floor, and a lot of times with that throw, you see people not wind up in a dominant pinning position. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think the Uchi Mata in jiu-jitsu is great as like a counter to somebody like hooking your leg.
Or grabbing a single.
Yeah, somebody doing that you can hit, but like to just go for an Uchi Mata, I mean, unless you're really good, unless you have a lot of judo experience, it's probably not going to be a good one.
Okay.
And like a shitty Uchi Mata puts you in.
Gets you single legged.
Gets you single leg, gets your back taken. It's just like not a good idea unless
Or,
you're really good at it.
or a good Uchi Mata gets you re-rolled a lot of times if you don't land properly.
If you commit too much, a lot of judo techniques don't translate well to jiu-jitsu competition because in judo you commit to the throw so much that you can roll through, whereas and that'll end the match. If you throw the guy clean, the match is over. But if you do that in jiu-jitsu, you roll through the guys on your back. You just gave him maybe you scored 2 points or an advantage, but then he just
scored 4.
He scored 4 by taking your back.
Yeah,
and then he submits you. So.
And you were at the Olympic Training Center for judo. You were on the junior Olympic team.
I was junior Olympic champion.
Well, I want to
national champion.
Where's
state champion.
Where's the documentation?
You want me to bring my medals in?
I'd like something. As you could tell from the Gracie family stuff, I don't believe.
No, I've trained judo a lot, and train Uchi Mata as much as you want, but until you can nail it in training, I wouldn't try it.
Right, and I was recommending using it as a counter to more like a single if that's something you want to do.
Or guys in on a leg, or like guys coming up from deep half guard on a single leg like that, then it's a good idea to Uchi Mata and back to the ground. But as far as like if you're gonna use it, you need to understand. If you're gonna use judo, you need to understand how to transition to the ground without rolling all the way through and giving your back. You need to like throw and learn to use the whizzer and stuff like that. So
I read an interesting article back in the day about, they asked Marcelo Garcia wrestling versus judo for jiu-jitsu, and he said wrestling all day, every day.
Yeah.
Because of the positions that you wind up in. What do you think? Do you agree?
On average, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's always a guy like Rodolfo Vieira was mostly judo.
Right.
Same thing with Herbo Santos. He's pretty much exclusively judo on the feet.
Right.
Doesn't really do any wrestling. Muhammad Ali, same thing. He's a judo guy.
And then I guess for the no-gi, it's a little bit harder to translate the...
For sure, yeah. So I would probably agree with him. In general, wrestling is better to teach the average person.
Right.
Because judo throws take just like so much time and effort and
but also the idea that dynamic, how dynamic those throws are for competitive judo doesn't translate well for competitive jiu-jitsu.
Right. You have to really sort of modify judo to work in jiu-jitsu. So unless you're like a high level of judo, you're gonna have a hard time doing that. But it's good to have judo throws, like
some counters. Yeah,
it's good to have a couple judo throws in your arsenal, because the other thing is like the gi shuts down tons of wrestling. You know.
Yeah.
I have like some really good wrestlers that train with me, and like if you grab them by the gi, they just can't get past it. They can't get to the legs, but it also shuts down a lot of judo and jiu-jitsu when people stiff arm you and just bend over. It's if you can mix it up, that's the best. And if you also have a good guard, then you'll be unstoppable.
Nice. You're the jiu-jitsu generalist at that point. You're good at everything.
Yeah. You can even beat Batman. Which
Tim cannot, but we clearly stated. So remember, folks, please rate, review. As my wife reminded me today, it's now Apple Podcasts. It's no longer iTunes is going away.
No more iTunes?
No, they're separating all that stuff out. So on Apple Podcasts, if you can rate and review. Also, if you have any questions, send them into ninjarobpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is ninjarob.com. Anything else you'd like to any parting shots?
I'll miss you guys.
I wish I could say the same.
But I'll be back. Hopefully. I'm going to train while I'm out there, too.
Nice.
I'm going to train at ZR Team.
Oh, nice. Likely. Yeah, they're good.
I think they have a lot of gyms in Europe.
Yeah, ZR is Zay Radiola.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
I was there last year. They're good.
All right, folks. Peace. Tim and I would like to thank our sound engineer and studio owner, Devin Wade, for always doing a great job with the sound, but also the beautiful facility that we get to use here at SFX Studios. We'd also like to thank Eddie Lynn, who takes and donates his time to the podcast to do all the video editing and everything you see on our social media. So really appreciate that from Eddie Lynn. And we'd also like to thank our friend Ralphie Darden, a.k.a. DJ Major Taylor, who gave us the original music that we use. So you're welcome, Tim.
And almost just as importantly as everybody else that he mentioned, we would like to thank all of our listeners that submitted questions.
This is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter, the podcast for the true martial artist.